like I said, we were talking about TeamKinetic, what the next 12 months is going to look like, what you guys have got to look forward to in terms of product, in terms of us as a business, and hopefully some of this stuff will leave you feeling a little bit excited when you leave the meeting and you go and have your first brew. You can be thinking about the impact it might have on the way you are able to do your job. Does this picture look familiar to people on the call? I'd love to know. Do you feel like a stressed Annie or a stressed Eric? Is there a demand on your time that is unreasonable? Are you being asked to do more with less? Do you feel that you're in a situation where your job is really about people and not paperwork, but you're being dragged more into that paperwork side of things? I can see some thumbs going up. That's nice to see. As we see it, as I've said, we think there's a rock star at the heart of every volunteer program, and I don't mean the volunteers, though they are important. But today we're talking to you guys, volunteer managers, and we get the sense that often you're buried in administrative and repetitive tasks. You're fighting fires. You're getting pulled away from the part of the job where you think you get to make the greatest impact. And we know for a fact that you believe in your people. You know, people who become volunteer managers are people first and foremost, rather than computer people or paperwork people. And we want to make sure that we enable you to be able to do the job in the way you want to. And we think there's a better way. And we believe there's a better way. And our session today is really going to look at that. We're going to share our ideas about how we're going to try and make that happen. Now, this work that we've been building towards, this new strategy, this beyond the software, has been very much born out of our values and our principles. And we've got them up on the screen there. But we start with the idea of designing for simplicity, building for connection. And we want to make sure that our company's focused and centered on these ideas. Now, for people that have been to events of mine before, we've talked about these values and principles, but we want to put the volunteer at the center of every one of our decisions. As a company, we're committed to giving back to the sector in time and expertise and financially as well. When it comes to connection, and connection is going to quote time and again today, especially in this first talk, but it's at the heart of what we want to build. We want to build stronger, more connected sector, a stronger community, and you know, if it doesn't sound too cheesy, we want to build a stronger society. And I'd like to think most of the people on the call get into this kind of work because they share that set of values. And the last one, it being for everybody, it means it's got to be accessible to people with lots of different requirements and needs. Each user has their own story, and we've got to have a platform that enables those users to take advantage of what it offers, and at a cost point that everyone can afford it. And I guess when we've looked at all that, that means that we don't want to just be a software company. We want to be your partner in professional development, in the delivering of impact, and really trying to reimagine what's possible as a volunteer manager. And all the new developments we're going to talk about today are designed for one thing: to empower your volunteers and to empower you guys as the rock stars that are helping manage those volunteers to do the amazing things that they do. So the vision, what's it all about? We've got a big announcement, and the vision really that we've been working towards is launching the TeamKinetic Academy. And the TeamKinetic Academy is going to provide you with the skills and tools that you need to become that leader that you want to be. Okay, so what does that actually mean? Well, to go beyond the software, making sure it's not just a concept, but it's more of a revolution in the way we act as a business. We want to transform volunteer management to empower each of your leaders, communicators, and strategists. And our work's going to be based around three key pillars: training for everyone, training the trainer, and our consultants networking offer. Okay, building a community of skilled professionals, moving beyond transactions to true partnerships. TeamKinetic's committed to make sure that your growth and the health of the sector is linked to our growth. Okay, now building a revolution takes a bit of time and effort, and we've built it around three key pillars. The training for everyone, it's the digital foundation. We want to demystify technology and provide accessible training, free webinars, workshop and guides to help every volunteer manager, no matter what product you're using, whether it's TeamKinetic or anything else. We want to help every volunteer manager navigate that digital landscape with confidence. We want to ensure everybody, regardless of the technical background, can match the tools that are out there. And we're going to do this through our continued work with digital and volunteering community of practice. Now, we've already got 500 members signed up as members of the digital Digital in volunteering community of practice. It's harder to say when you're reading it than when you just say it normally. It's free to join. You don't need to be a TeamKinetic customer. And we know there's plenty on the call today that aren't TeamKinetic customers. We'll provide support and help to everyone who needs it. It's product agnostic. So it doesn't matter what VMS system you're using or if you're not using one at all. What our ambition is with this first pillar is to build a community that helps lift the sector for everybody, that lets you learn, lets you collaborate, lets you share good practice, and we're looking to deliver technical information to a non-technical audience through the community itself. So people that have done this stuff and been through the pain, talking to you guys to help you lift your skills and lift your knowledge and make sure you avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes that they've made. So that's the first tenet of our new approach. Okay, it's free, it's open to everyone, and we'd love you to sign up. You'll see there's a little QR code on the screen. I told you there'd be a few QR codes in. So if you've not signed up for the digital in volunteering community of practice, get your camera out, take a little picture. It takes a second to sign up, and there's all sorts of free resources that will be coming your way. Pillar 2 is training the trainer. Now, this is about equipping our champions. It's about our customers being our greatest advocates. Program, it's aimed to provide advanced training, comprehensive toolkits, a structured curriculum and materials that can lead to a formally recognized qualification. We want to empower our users to become in-house experts, not just on TeamKinetic, but how to use TeamKinetic to be the best volunteer manager you can be. We want you to feel confident, competent. I want to feel like you've mastered the software, so then you can then go and train other people in your organization to become the kind of volunteer manager you want them to be. The third and final pillar of the offer is this idea of a network of expertise. And we've been expanding our reach by partnering with established sector consultants. These experts, we want to become official resellers and certified trainers, providing localized and bespoke support and strategic guidance. What we see is this opportunity of combining our platform and the power of their knowledge to really start to lift people's confidence and people's ability to use these tools to be really effective. We've got to remember that we're operating in an environment where people's expectations are only going up on what they're expecting from digital. And as a sector, we want to make sure that we're keeping it on track with people's expectations. Now, this is quite a significant evolution for TeamKinetic. It's a shift from a transactional relationship where we're software providers to being something a bit more built around partnerships and shared success. We're investing in your professional growth and the growth of all our users, because we see that as a direct link to the growth of the overall sector. And we're going to invite all organizations, all volunteer managers to explore these new resources and join us in the community and really try and build something that is from the sector, for the good of the sector. Not necessarily led by a technology provider by me, but led by volunteer managers that have got a passion for this stuff. We think has a chance to change quite a lot of stuff and offer a voice that maybe sometimes individual volunteer managers don't think they have. We're not going to do this on our own. We need your help. We've already consulted a range of customers and experts because we know that you guys are at the cold face. You're fighting that good fight every day. So, you know, it's really important that as this strategy develops, as this offer develops, that we have you guys on board with us. One of the experts we spoke to, who's helped us in designing this, you've already heard from. But if I can reintroduce Ruth, and Ruth has been working with us in the development of this particular strategy, and specifically what that learning material is going to look like for that middle pillar of the 3 pillars that I've just introduced. Ruth, can you tell, are you happy to share a little bit about what we're looking to do?
Of course, yes. I'll be really pleased to work with TeamKinetic on some of what needs to go to really make sure that everybody can feel that they're the rock star and recognise that they are within these relationships. I wanted to put this quote up from the book that I wrote with Jürgen Gott a couple of years ago that really reflects some of the things that we can all see. Volunteer involvement is complex and ever-changing, and in order to succeed, it needs action, which is reflective. So bringing together some of those practical elements, but also having that opportunity to do some thought behind it and where it's coming from. Because we know that in an increasingly digital world, we've already been talking about that role of the volunteer manager has evolved to require more than just doing administrative efficiency and paperwork and processes. It needs to be about being an effective leader, communicator, and a strategic thinker. And the Academy is going to add to that professional development of the volunteer management community. So some of the things we want to be doing is incorporating a modular training program, complete with toolkits and a full structured curriculum and lots of materials that will really help to embed any learning. It's going to be practical. It's going to enable self-reflection, and hopefully it will be fun, because that's also a really important element of involving volunteers and creating our opportunity to learn and grow. That's really aligning with my belief and the kind of things that I've got in this book around involving volunteers is fundamentally about building relationships. And a volunteer management system and a platform is a tool to enable that. So the whole element of the kind of things I want to be exploring in the training program is that building of relationships. It's going to be designed to equip you with the skills to become experts in your own right in involving volunteers, and also in thinking about how to be using the platforms as a tool. So you'll not only learn to master the TeamKinetic software, and also think about how to train your own teams and your users effectively, as Chris mentioned. If you come through the training program, you'll be the in-house experts and able to share your knowledge and ensure that your organization or your network can leverage the software so that you can be the best volunteer managers that you can be. The first step of the program will be the offer of a diagnostic tool so that you can identify the key development areas for yourself or for your team, and we can then begin to structure the training around that. It's going to The volunteer involvement training will dovetail with the existing training on how to use the TeamKinetic system, and it'll be links to the platform as well. So there'll be lots of interrelated bits to build up your skills in everything that you're needing. So for example, some of the things that you'll have is opportunity to create a role profile for a sample role off the platform, so that you can then use it to add on the platform whilst you're being trained to use the actual system. Structuring the program in several parts, and each module is going to be supported with a workbook with exercises, as I say, links to the systems, and there'll be some further reading and signposted and other opportunities to look elsewhere. And the first major module is around connecting. I mentioned that I think that bringing volunteers together is about building relationships, and the first thing you do in a building a relationship is to connect with them. So this is a process of volunteers and those involved in them finding and connecting with each other, and in that we'll be looking at how we plan for volunteer involvement, how we make sure that we are finding potential volunteers and that they are finding us. So they'll be looking at how do we write meaningful and engaging material, and then what's needed to help those volunteers understand that once they found us, they'll be able to know what to do and how to make decisions about going on further. And the second big module is around collaborating. So it's how do we agree to work together? How do people who involve volunteers and volunteers agree the way that they want to be working together? Letting volunteers know what it is that's going on and making sure we can hear back from them. So in that, there's a big element of how we communicate with each other, how we continue to guide and support volunteers to make sure there's an opportunity for them to be developing and then to know where to come when there's any problems, and how we can capture that on the systems as well. And really importantly, valuing our volunteers and making sure that we've got the opportunity to say thank you and that it's built in systemically. And the third module area, we're about complementing. So how we're working together and really demonstrating that we're making that difference together. This is the area to think about, looking at how our processes are inclusive and accessible as possible for our volunteers to get involved and to stay involved. It's also the piece we'll be looking at problem solving. It's inevitable that so many people are getting involved in so many ways that things will go wrong sometimes. So how best to manage that when it happens. And then really importantly, how we measure the outcomes of volunteer involvement and how we monitor and we make sure that we can explore what's going on. But also finally within this section, this is about how we say goodbye. How can we have good endings that work for everybody within that relationship? So the training program's going to be supported by masterclasses on specific issues coming up from the sessions, or from feedback from TeamKinetic users. And obviously this is where we could be bringing in some of the expert consultants that Chris was mentioning as a third pillar, so we'll be able to hear particular areas that we want. And there's going to be the opportunity to go through that whole program, either as an individual or in a peer cohort. And I'll be looking at how we can host some of the sessions to review and discuss that content as we go through. We want to make sure that we're developing this program to run with those of you who are involving volunteers directly, but also those of you who are doing so in infrastructure organizations like volunteer centers or CVSs, so that we can help you help other organizations. So with this material, I'm also going to be creating that train the trainer resource so that you can enable that. And we'll be setting up a workshop in due course to work with infrastructure organizations to explore that. So really excited it's an opportunity to launch this idea with you. And we'll be actually having something that we're launching physically early next year. So do watch this space and be involved as we go through. Just wanted to add, we're going to be looking at a supplementary advanced program as well for people who want to think more theoretically and conceptually about some of this stuff and take part in broader conversations. And also, as part of that broader offer of support for TeamKinetic customers beyond the platform, I'm going to be offering an opportunity to get in touch directly with me on any aspect of volunteer management. And based on that discussion, perhaps there's a range of solutions. So if you do want to get in touch with me, Ruth at teamkinetic.co.uk is a place to get in touch. But I'm really excited to hearing more and being involved and having these future conversations as it grows out. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. It's a big change for us at TeamKinetic, where we are moving from a software company to something a little bit more, where we see there is an opportunity, a need for greater support, greater support material to help you do your job, a little bit more in terms of training and structure that spans between the software and the practicalities of being a good volunteer manager, that helps you take advantage of the technology in a way that enables you to do your job more effectively. We think working with people like Ruth, and there's others that you'll hear from today that are helping us shape this program, there is real value to be had if we can put this in a format that's easy for you guys to access, that you can do via the TeamKinetic platform, that enables you basically to take advantage of these amazing people that are out there that maybe done some of this stuff before. That's really what the Academy is going to be about. We want to build a strong community through the community of practice. We want to have good, strong training, and we want to make sure that where the expertise is available, you guys can access it. That's what the Academy is all about, and that is really what we're looking to achieve over the next 12 months. Watch this space. It's still early days. You can join the community of practice now. The training is on its way, and the network of consultants is also on its way, and we're looking to launch both of them early in the new year. So please keep on watching this space. The next big announcement is as I started at the start of the session about what our values were, for a long time, it's been really important for us that our software is available to everybody. In terms of accessibility, one of the biggest factors that affects accessibility is cost. So we went away, we put our thinking caps on, and we decided to think again about how you may want to purchase or buy a volunteer management system. And we realized there's quite distinct user types. There's the small organizations, the tiny organizations that really do need some tools, but maybe have no budget at all. We saw during COVID that explosion in mutual aid, and people came up with really clever solutions to sort of manage that process. We think that solution should have been there, ready to go, that they could have just switched on. So that is where our thinking started. We also know that there's organizations that they move a little bit from that startup, that just getting going, and they start to need a little bit more in terms of the volume of volunteering they may be doing, the number of people they're interacting with. They're still small or local organizations, but they need a cost-effective way that's going to enable them to grow and use some of the more advanced tools. We then know you've got those organizations in your communities, in your localities, that are a little bit larger, that maybe have multiple people managing volunteers within a single organisation, that need tools that enable them to see what's going on across an organisation when you've got multiple volunteer managers, that need a few more controls around onboarding and safety and compliance, because having a larger organisation comes with an extra level of risk and you're extra people managing volunteers, all the way up to our all singing, all dancing organizations that need all the power tools, all the controls, all the customizations. And that was our thinking when we decided to launch the new versions of our product. The new versions start free, and that's our community version. We then move into Essentials, which you can have for £29 a month. We then jump up to Growth, which goes at £69 a month. Finalising an Enterprise, which starts from £189 a month, but with lots and lots and lots of scope and customization in there for how we can make that product work for you. Now, this is primarily for new customers, and it won't impact any of our existing customers. You won't notice any changes, okay? But for new customers that are thinking about what technology they may want to use, or maybe changing what they've currently got, we hope that there's now a price point and a product point that suits the needs of everybody out there. And we hope we can start to build an ecosystem around TeamKinetic users of all shapes and sizes that's to the greater good of the sector. If you do want to try any of these, if we've got people on the call that aren't TeamKinetic customers, I know we're about 50-50 in terms of attendees today. There's a little QR code in the corner there. If you just click on that QR code, it will take you to a little contact us page. It takes us 15 minutes, maybe even less, to get you up and running. A little chat about what you're looking for, what your needs are, and away you go. You'll have your system potentially up and running to give a little try. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. And yeah, we look forward to anybody that's maybe interested in joining us. The final set of improvements I want to talk about before I pass over to Rolf sort of fits in with this vision around connection. Ruth mentioned connection in her section around the TeamKinetic Academy. We opened with connection being part of our principles. When I say it, it's not something we say lighthearted. It's at the absolute heart of everything we do. And one of the unique features of TeamKinetic is the fact it connects to so many other platforms that are out there. Now on the screen, you can see a couple of the big ones that we're all aware of. Do It has been around for quite a long time, and you can connect and share your opportunities from TeamKinetic directly into the Do It platform. The second one that's on there is Volunteer Scotland, again, via our connection to a system called Milo. Organisations in Scotland can connect to Milo, which will share their opportunities into the TSI network and into Volunteer Scotland. On the horizon, very, very shortly, Royal Voluntary Service. I'm sure everybody's heard about and has their own thoughts and opinions about RVS. But we've been talking to them for a little while. We've got access to their API, and we very much intend, as we did with Do It, to make sure that if you want to connect your opportunities and share them with RVS, you can do. But TeamKinetic goes a little bit further than all that. Within a TeamKinetic setup, if you have other TeamKinetic users in your area, we can connect you to them. And we've got a couple of people on the call that have been through this experience. So the guys in Lincolnshire, the guys in Manchester, and the guys in Liverpool exist in joined up networks. And the map you see on the screen there, lots of dots. It looks like the UK's got mumps. It hasn't. These are all the TeamKinetic sites. What we want to do is connect them into networks, into joined up collaborative networks that allow organizations to work interoperably, to work collaboratively, and to work in a way that is sensible and makes sense to the volunteer. Rather than asking them to sign up in lots and lots of different places, we like them to sign up in one place and be able to access as much stuff as possible. So if you're using TeamKinetic and you know there's other people in your area you'd like to connect to, reach out to me. It's chris@teamkinetic.co.uk, and we can start to have those conversations and link you to those other TeamKinetic customers. If you're in Scotland and you'd like to connect to Volunteer Scotland, get in touch with me. If you've not taken advantage of the Do It connection just yet, again, please feel free to get in touch with me and we can sort that out for you as well. There's a little bit of setup for all these things, but it doesn't take very long. There's no charge involved. And like I say, it strikes at the heart of what we're all about, which is giving you a bigger audience, growing the number of eyeballs that see your opportunities, and giving you the greatest opportunity to find a volunteer for the thing you're looking for. At this point, I'm going to shut up for a bit because I've done all my talking for a little while, and I'm going to pass over to Rolf, who's going to tell you a little bit more about some of the other features and improvements that we're going to see in TeamKinetic over the next 12 months.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If anyone's got a problem hearing me, please let me know in the messages. Okay, yeah, thanks for all that, Chris. So I'm going to talk about some of the new things that are coming along to TeamKinetic. And at the end, we'll have a little discussion of question and answers about these features and any other things that Ruth and Chris have spoken about. So the first thing I want to talk about is our collaboration with Tickets for Good. Tickets for Good are an organization which takes spare tickets or tickets that have been gifted or are left over at concerts and all sorts of things, not just music concerts, all sorts of gigs and events, and makes them available for volunteers, either free with just the booking fee, or for a much reduced price from the face value. These are available for volunteers that have are active volunteers, so they've been on an opportunity and vlogged some hours. And it's a sort of a virtuous circle sort of idea. It's a brand new way for you to reward and recognize volunteers. We've got organizations that are offering their tickets to Tickets for Good. And then you've got volunteers that are offering their time. So that's a lovely closed virtuous circle there, and everyone's getting rewarded. So this allows you to reward your volunteers with something tangible, but without having to navigate the pros and cons of your own physical rewards and maybe those arguments around whether volunteers should ever get paid, those sorts of arguments. It neatly sidesteps that. But it's a great way of saying thanks to your volunteers, and it's really, really simple. All they'll have to do is there'll be some notifications when they log hours to let them know that the feature exists. They will have to go through a central holding site, which is Tickets for Good, TeamKinetic. They'll be logged in already, and they'll be taken forwards then to create their account with Tickets for Good. And from that point onwards, they can just go straight to Tickets for Good and start buying these tickets and scooping up these free experiences. It's a great way to boost morale, increase your volunteer retention, attract new volunteers, and all while strengthening your connection within the community, because these volunteers, so a lot of these events are local events as well. They're not just big national things. So they're things that are going on in their community as well. And they'll also get a chance to meet the other volunteers that are volunteering in your organization. We're going to encourage volunteer managers to check out this new feature. There are some checks that we have to do in the first place. So Tickets for Good, the organization themselves, has to clear your organization to make sure that you're suitable. The criteria are pretty low, but it's just a process we have to go through, so we can add you one at a time, and then everyone will access them in the same way. That's the first new feature that's coming. The timescale for that is we're already testing it with some people, so we're just waiting to iron out a few of the issues, get everything ticked off at Tickets for Good end. So that should be ready within a month, and you'll be able to start joining that system. The next thing we want to talk about is this one-up everywhere thing. So this is addressing a perennial problem where you've got opportunities that may occur in many, many places, but it's essentially the same opportunity. So for instance, working in a shop is the same, in a charity shop is the same opportunity, but it may occur in lots of different places. This work came out of our partnership with the Commonwealth War Graves Association. And they have a whole horde of volunteers that go around and look after the graves of fallen servicemen and women. So their actual opportunity is always pretty much the same. Check on the grave, make sure it's okay, see if it's toppled, take a photo, those sorts of things. But the locations, as you can imagine, there's tens of thousands of these locations. And we don't want 10,000 ops or however many ops that are identical, polluting up the search page, just with different locations. So we've come up with a system where you can be able to create an opportunity and then list a bunch of multiple locations associated with that opportunity. Then when someone joins that opportunity, they're asked to identify the location they want to join. So for most intents and purposes, it'll look the same in the background. It's just every session that the volunteer joins will be associated with a location as well as the opportunity. So later on, you'll be able to extract the information, find out if all the locations are covered, those sorts of things, just with a session. But instead of having loads and loads of sessions that are named for a location or loads and loads of opportunities, there'll just be one opportunity, potentially one or a few sessions, and lots of locations associated with them. There'll be a slight difference in the front end. So the volunteer will see the opportunity once in the search page, but when they view that opportunity, they'll then be given a chance to pick the location they're interested in. So we can join them to the session and the location at the same time. And we're hoping this prevents a lot of repetition, and also the issues around things like when you have an area opportunity and you can't really tell them exactly where it is. So you might be saying it's throughout Manchester, or throughout a county. This will give you the opportunity to specify exactly where it is without having to duplicate work. So yeah, that's the one op everywhere, multiple locations. The next two are connected, and you've probably heard a bit about this from us already. So the first thing is giving you better control over the access for your admins. So right now we've got super admins, regular admins, and pod admins, and you can't really adjust the access that those user types are given. So we're going to implement what we call a granular permissions basis. So as you can see on the screen there, there'll be a whole bunch of functionality and access throughout the system that you'll be able to dictate on a user by user basis. So you won't need to do anything different in terms of the admins. Your admins will still be the same in terms of your license and all those sorts of things, but you'll be able to dictate exactly what each admin could do. So examples of these would be, for instance, they can't create ops, they can only edit ops, or they can only edit opportunities that they've created, similar to a pod admin. They can't edit other people's opportunities. They can't edit volunteer information, or they can only edit volunteer information with volunteers that associate with their opportunities. They can process role applications or reference applications. So there'll be a whole bunch. We're looking at, so far we've got about 25 to 30 permissions in there that you can switch on and off. There'll also be some basic roles that you can use, which will be associated with a set of permissions, which you can then change afterwards. So if you're unsure, you could set them up as, we're not sure what they're going to be called yet, but things like editor, for instance, or viewer only, where they can only look at the opportunities and stuff, they can't edit them, those sorts of things. This will hopefully bridge that gap between where we've got providers which don't have access to things they need to process, so things like background checks or role applications, or the upcoming flows. The providers can't access those things, so now you'll be able to pull those providers that need that sort of access into your admin cohort, but still control what they can do, so they only get the access they need. This is happening now, and we're building it at the minute, so we're doing a bit of testing now. So this should be out in this coming quarter. This leads us into the next feature, which is a big thing, which you've heard us talk about before. We have mentioned it. It's been a long time coming. So you're probably aware, if you use TeamKinetic now, that we have quite a few different methods of restricting and controlling access to opportunities, and also for handling onboarding with registration. So you've got custom fields, you've got the emails and stuff that go out when they're first registered, you've got whether they get access when they're registered, you've got different statuses of the volunteer. Then for opportunities, we have the roles, but there's also the apply process. There's restrictions around whether they've got a background check, their age, whether they've been inducted. All these various strands that you can use to restrict access, control onboarding, and control opportunity joining, which is great for flexibility, but it has made things a little complicated, and sometimes people are a little bit confused why an opportunity is available, why it's not, or why they can get on, or why they can't get, or what they need to do to restrict. So what we're going to do is bring all those threads together into one process that we're going to call flows. This process will be available in the numerous spots in the app. To begin with, it'll be registration we're focusing on, and then we'll be focusing on opportunity joining. They'll work in a similar way in terms of the interface like the flows do now. So if you've used the flows at all, you'll know how they work. So you're basically creating a bunch of
the roles,
yeah. So you'll be able to create a bunch of steps just as you do with the roles, but there's going to be a lot more detail in there and a lot more flexibility. So for instance, when registering, when applied to the registration process, you'll be able to put a reference step in there, which is connected to the reference system. So when the volunteer hits that step that they can complete, they'll put in the reference details and the reference will get collected and associated with that onboarding flow. For opportunity joining, you might want to put in a background check, for instance, say they have to have a background check. So that's part of that flow. And if they have the background check, it'll be ticked off. They're fine, they've got that. And if they haven't, there'll be an action to resolve that. There will be email steps. So if they get to this point, get this email and giving them a bit more information. All the stuff around applications and roles and restrictions will all be brought into that single flow. I'm hoping it'll make it easier for admins. They'll reduce the burden of admin control. It'll help with compliance. You can make sure that all opportunities have the same compliance factors in that role, in that flow going forward. And to help to standardize things and make things a lot more simple. So you'll know where a volunteer is in the onboarding stage, you'll know where a volunteer is in the joining the opportunity stage, and everyone will know where they are. All this information also will be reflected to the volunteer in the app or on the desktop. The flow and the permissions are tied together because evidently you'll need to control who has access to the flows in terms of admins, and how you can process them and what they can do and what they're allowed to do, if they're allowed to create new flows, process flows that exist, those sorts of stuff. So the two are coming together, which is why we have to get the permissions right first. And then there'll be a whole bunch of that which is applied to the flows. So those are the new things that come in. The flows are a lot more complicated, but we're hoping to get that Q1, Q2 next year. So we'll open it up now for questions and discussion. So if anyone's got any questions, stick your hand up. If Chris, you monitor people asking questions, I'll monitor the chat for now and try and answer things in there and jump in when I need to.
Okay, guys, there's a lot there. There's some big stuff and there's some smaller stuff. There's always other things going on as well. So please feel free to, let us know anything. First question that's coming in here from Keith is the ongoing challenge around emails and spam going in spam folders, Rob. Do you want to explain a little bit about the work we do in the background to try and avoid that happening, but the challenges around it?
Okay, there's a number of issues around spam. The first is trying to stop it in the first instance. So we follow all the recommendations, which there's a lot of acronyms like DKIM and SPF framework and all this sort of stuff. So we do as much as we can in the background. The fundamental issue is that a lot of these emails are the same. So we send out approximately 500,000 emails a month, that sort of number. And you can imagine out of that number of emails, quite a lot are very similar. And that can increase the spam score because they all come from the same place. So they look like a sort of spam campaign, I guess. And there's lots of emails saying the same thing. And we can't do anything about that. But what we can do is try to increase our reputation, which is done through our email agent, which is pretty good. And as I say, get all the frameworks and the domain keys and all that sort of stuff that goes on in the background to make the email look as valid as possible. But there will still be some that are spammed. What we are trying to do is improve the feedback loop. So we introduced that idea where you could look at the most recent emails. So if you go to any volunteer's profile page, you can look at their email log, and the most recent emails, I think in the last 30 days, you can get a report on that email. So you can check to see if that email has actually been received, opened, that sort of thing. So you get that sort of feedback. So we're trying to improve that and get more into the email report. So you're told when something's been spammed, so you can actually access it, and you don't have to wait and just find out because a volunteer doesn't have an email, isn't getting the emails. But there isn't much more we can do, unfortunately. The only next step available would be to integrate other people's email accounts, and that comes with a whole bunch of issues itself. We do have some documentation that we can spread if anyone needs some, that you can send to your volunteers or include in the initial registration email, things like that, about white labeling and whitelisting and not clicking on spam around our email to try and improve the delivery rate. But there's not much more we can do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think if I can just pick up on what Ross said there, that the bit that you can do, the practical bit that you can do, is making sure that your volunteers are adding that email, our address, to their safe list. And there's some, like I say, there's some guidance from us to enable you to do that. But it's an ongoing challenge, especially for a product like ours that sends so many emails out. A couple more questions coming through. Joanna, is there going to be a training session on pod providers and admins available at any time? I think I can answer that one, Joanna. With the new work on the privileges that Rolf was talking about before, we're just revamping some of the training around pods, because it's going to be affected by this new granular privileges that Rolf was talking about before. The fact we brought Ruth on board, she's working with Steve on our training offer as we speak. So we will take that as a bit of feedback around pod admins and providers, and have a little think about where that sits. And I'll reach out directly to you, John, about what that might look like. Got a couple of questions up here about Tickets for Good, and the questions around Tickets for Good were its impact and risk towards it being considered payment for volunteering. We've had quite long and detailed conversations with the guys from Tickets for Good, and they've had long and detailed conversations with HMRC about why it wouldn't be considered payment. I've put some information in, lots of it, about the legal distinctions, which makes them confident that it's not considered payment and it shouldn't affect things like benefits and whatnot. If anybody's interested, guys from Tickets for Good to run maybe a little workshop on that, and people who want to attend that workshop, just give me a little thumbs up on the screen or a little message in the app here in the chat, and we can reach back out to everybody and let you know. We know it's always a worry in this space. Tickets for Good did an awful lot of work around that to make sure it's not considered payment. They are better placed than me to explain the conversations they had with HMRC, though I certainly don't want to say anything that may be incorrect. I'm looking at just going back a bit further. Gaynor had a bit of a question about the different versions that we've got. We'll reach out directly to you, Gaynor, about that, I think. I'm just seeing anything else in that chat. Whilst I'm having a quick look back through the chat, because there's been quite a lot of it. Does anybody like to pop the hand up and ask us any questions? Okay, we've got Tony's whole applications quite take a bit to complete. For example, requiring volunteers to gain qualifications take up to a year. Currently, the volunteer has to apply for an opportunity to start the process because of a role, which is very clunky. Will volunteers be able to apply for roles without applying for opportunities first? Rolf, do you want to talk a little bit about how that's going to work with the flows rather than in the roles?
Yes, so the flows, right now for roles, you can actually initiate a role application for a volunteer without them having to join an opportunity, but the volunteer can't initiate that. So you'd have to know they wanted to apply first, but you can initiate that role anytime you like for a volunteer. For the roles, they're not just to preserve opportunities, so they will belong to like a registration process, which will happen automatically. And again, those flows, so you might be able to move some of the stuff that you need for compliance and whatnot for joining an opportunity. You may be able to move that into the onboarding process. So you get all that done out of the way first, which reduces the amount of stuff you have to do for each opportunity. So they can be, all that stuff can be pre-checked. So then when it comes to the opportunity, there's only a very limited amount, which could slow it down. I think for the volunteers joining a role, it's probably going to be the same, or a flow rather, it's probably going to be the same, that it would have to be initiated by the admin rather than the volunteer just joining a flow. I think it's when it comes out, I think it'll be important to have that distinction around anything that has to be done for all volunteers, you do as part of the onboarding. And then all that's left in the opportunity stuff is what's required for that opportunity, or that type of opportunity. As flows will be applicable across opportunities if you want. So then it won't matter that there's stuff that needs to be done. It has to be done at that point for that opportunity.